Good afternoon, everyone. We've just started our webinar for nonprofit organizations interested in hosting a Day of Caring project. And we're really excited to have this chance to talk with you a little bit more about this event today. I'm Jennifer Owen. I'm the Director of Marketing Communications for United Way of Buffalo and Erie County. Here on the call, we have Liz Parks, who will be our Zoom jockey, helping to monitor the chat and other call-related functions. She'll be popping some links into the chat for you all throughout the call, a few documents. So she's keeping our operations and logistics flowing. Kaylee Donaldson, Digital Content Coordinator at United Way. She is helped put the site together and the registration form, all those things. So she's on hand for questions. Suzette O'Brien, our Volunteer Services and Community Engagement Manager. She's our main point of contact for Day of Caring this year. So she's someone you're going to be interacting with a lot as you get your project registered or as questions come up. And also we have two special guests, Sandy Falsone and Scott Zwink from Wegmans and M&T Bank, who are here to tell you a little bit about some ways United Way and our volunteers might be able to help you come up with a fantastic Day of Caring project for this year. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and let us get started. I'm going to share my screen with some quick slides, and we're going to give you a nice overview today of, let's see, let me find the right, there we go, the right tab. An overview today of, what is the same, what is new and different, and a little bit more about how you can be part of Day of Caring this year. Can someone on my team just confirm you are seeing the Reimagining a UWBC Tradition? Fantastic, we're on track. We're winning so much today. We are so excited here at United Way to be bringing back Day of Caring. As we've all sort of started to return to public activities after the disruption of COVID, we saw this as a really visible and valuable opportunity to engage people in our community in giving back in a hands-on way. And we hope that all of you are going to be excited that this event is back as well. Like I said, we're going to give you an overview of what's the same, what's different, what we see as some really exciting opportunities for growth related to this event, the overall timeline, and how you and your organization can be part of it. So first, the same. It is a single day of volunteering. It is a large number of volunteers, and it's still a wide variety of projects in support of nonprofits across Erie County. So those basics, those core elements of Day of Caring are staying the same. But now a little bit about what is different, how Day of Caring has evolved since the last time we put on this event. First, you've probably noticed already that we have changed the time frame to June. We used to always host this event in August, and we've moved it to June 21st, partially as a response to agency feedback that sometimes there were better projects available for volunteers earlier in the summer, who wouldn't want to clean up a camp or plant some flowers at the beginning of the summer instead of the end. And also, we feel like it gives us some latitude to distinguish the event from its past iteration. So we hope that you are also excited to give this a try in June and see what kind of magic we could make in that time frame. The second thing that is changing about Day of Caring from a United Way perspective is this year we're really working to bring in projects that are aligned with United Way's overall impact priorities, right? United Way of Buffalo and Erie County, we're breaking a cycle of hardship that affects 40% of Erie County families. And we do that through supporting the health, education, and financial well-being of community members at every stage of life. And for our organization to really be able to fulfill our mission of that systemic change in those areas, we want to really focus in on promoting and supporting the work of those nonprofit organizations that are doing that same work, that are helping to fulfill that same mission. And what we really think is it's going to help not only United Way, but your organization tell a clearer story of the work that you do and of the overall day. So moving forward, we're going to use our impact criteria from our most recent investment cycle to really guide and shape the projects that are included as part of Day of Caring, right? And that information, it's available on our website. You're going to get pointed lots of times to the Day of Caring page on our website today. But we're looking for organizations that are working within our 7 impact priorities, from early childhood all the way through financial stability, and are operating within our 16 high priority zip codes. Again, all that information is going to be available on the website. So check that out and really look and see, if that's a category you fall into. We really want to give special attention and priority to your project. However, if you look at the information, you feel like you don't fall into one of those categories, never fear. We would love to help you make sure that you can recruit volunteers for your needs year-round through Volunteer Western New York. And Suzette here on the call is our resident expert of that site and is happy to help you get your nonprofit set up. We're not leaving you without volunteers. We're just crafting Day of Caring a little bit differently. We're also offering new pathways for people to participate in Day of Caring. In the past, the event was really focused on teams from companies, right? But in bringing back Day of Caring, we realized we wanted it to be more inclusive. The workplace has changed, the world has changed a lot in the last 3 years. So while we're still offering registration for company teams, we're also going to be curating projects for special groups of United Way stakeholders, like our giving communities, and for the first time, allowing individuals to self-register for projects through Volunteer Western New York. So even if a volunteer isn't affiliated with a particular team, they're still going to have a pathway to join in on projects that you all are hosting. We're also offering more flexibility within the day for all of you host agencies who might host projects. In the past, it was either morning only or all day. We're now opening it up to be morning half day, afternoon half day, or a full day project. So there's a little more flexibility in thinking about, the time frame of your project on that June 21st date. And finally, we really want to encourage agencies to think beyond those traditional projects like gardening or painting and think about professional skills volunteering, like maybe you need some help getting your social media channel set up, or you want someone to, give you some tips on your accounting. We'd be happy to seek out professional skill volunteers from our United Way connections to partner with your agency on those things that aren't maybe what Day of Caring traditionally was. Next, this is a big addition to the day. Is the addition of a peer-to-peer fundraising component. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a minute, but ultimately the fundraising is going to benefit both United Way and the project host agencies. And finally, we're making a few operational streamlining changes, which we think are going to make the event a little less complex and just focus more on the fun part of it. So let me tell you a little more about the peer-to-peer fundraising campaign. Day of Caring was historically a very popular and very visible event for United Way. And we felt like there was a real opportunity to engage and activate the folks who were volunteering, as well as their personal networks, to really generate some resources and just attention for the causes that people are participating in. So United Way will set up a fundraising portal on our mobile cause platform. We'll create a toolkit for fundraisers and for agencies to help promote it. And then we'll be recruiting folks who are volunteering as part of the day to become a Day of Caring fundraising champion. The idea being, hey, I'm volunteering 4 hours of my time for X agency. Will you donate the dollar value of an hour of volunteering to help support my time, right? We're looking for you as nonprofit agencies to help promote this fundraising campaign. And at the end, all the funds raised will be split 50-50 between United Way and the agency that's hosting the project that the champion is volunteering at. We know that hosting high quality projects takes resources. We hope that this will help offset some of the costs of hosting a high quality project and bring in some resources for your organization, as well as introduce more people to your work. So we're really excited to pilot this idea this year. We hope that you're going to be excited about it as well. And then those couple of operational updates. Historically, we had hosted a kickoff in the morning downtown at the arena and a luncheon afterwards. And we had heard in the past from our volunteers that those weren't really that high value part of the day for them. And it put some constraints on the day that limited our project availability. So instead of having that day of event, we are actually going to have a sponsor pre-event. And this is important, agencies, because this is an event that's also for you. The idea behind this is that a week and a half before Day of Caring, we'll get our sponsors, all of the team leaders from every single one of our Day of Caring sites, and the agency project lead from every site. We're going to have a happy hour. We'll have t-shirt pickup and information packet pickup for those team leaders. It'll be a chance for you as agency project leads to meet your team leaders before the day of. And we're really going to give you all the information that you need to have a really successful day on June 21st. So again, this is a little change, but we're excited about trying it out to see what it can bring to the day. At that event, we'll also provide you with the day of collateral for your project site that will help, all of our participating organizations see how they fit in the big picture of one big day of caring. Because that's really the United Way story, right? Is that together we're all a little part of something big, and that's how change is made. That's where change starts. An update on transportation, because there's no morning meeting place or centralized midday event, we are largely eliminating busing. There may be very limited cases where a bus will be provided for a project due to special circumstances, but in general, volunteers will be transporting themselves to and from projects. This is just another way we feel like the world has sort of evolved in the last couple of years. So think about this as you plan your project, you plan your number of volunteers. We really are going to need to understand your parking situation. Meals and water. So this is one piece of the, United Way's piece versus the agency piece. We are looking to our host agencies to provide bottled water for all of our volunteers, all the volunteers at their site. And if you are hosting a full day project, we're looking to the host agency to provide lunch for those volunteers. And we do hope that the fundraising piece of Day of Caring is going to help offset some of the costs of providing those things for our volunteers. And we do encourage you to consider options of looking to have lunch as sponsors or donated if that's something that would help out your organization. So that is a little bit of a change that we wanted to make sure that we have made all of our organizations aware of. Finally, logistics-wise, we are going to be using Volunteer Western New York this year as the main platform for matching our volunteers. So you're still going to submit your project to United Way, which Suzette will talk about more in a minute. But we're going to then set it up in Volunteer Western New York to display to volunteers, and volunteers will be able to directly register for projects for the first time. We hope this is going to help with some of that matching. People will be able to search through and pick projects that they're really excited about and that speak to them. So we're excited about using this tool and being able to introduce Volunteer Western New York to more of the community. Very quick timeline overview, just for your general reference. It's January now, and agency registration, drum roll, is open today, and the agency info session is happening as we speak, so we're right on track. We're going to be continuing to recruit those projects over the next couple of months, but we really want to try to get as many in as soon as possible, because as you can see in March, we're going to start matching sponsors with projects. Moving into May, that's when that public volunteer registration is going to open, where it's on Volunteer Western New York and people are self-selecting. And that's also when that fundraising campaign is going to launch, because we feel like community members are going to want to understand where they're volunteering before they decide to sign up as a fundraising champion. And finally, June will roll around, we'll have our pre-event, and then we'll have that big day. So I hope that gives you a quick overview broadly of the event. And now I'm going to hand it over to Suzette, who's going to get into a few more specifics. You are muted, Suzette.
Thanks, Jen. Hi, everybody. I'm Suzette O'Brien. I'm the Volunteer Services Manager here at United Way, and I know that I work with many of you through our Business Meets Community program and other engagement opportunities, and I'm super excited to be working with you all for Day of Caring this year. And as Jen said today, project registration is live today. Woohoo! I can't believe it. In a little bit, we're going to show you, we're going to pop in the chat once we're done with this presentation so that you can actually view the Day of Caring page on our website, and you'll be able to click on the link to see what it looks like to register. But it's a pretty simple form. And obviously there's a section there for you to give a brief description of your project. We do encourage you to register as soon as possible, but we don't want you to stress about having all of the details for your project, because there is time and we will work with you on that, which we will get to in a little bit here. As Jen mentioned, all of the United Way projects will be housed on our Volunteer Western New York site this year, which we're also going to show you a screenshot of. So you will be filling out the form, and then United Way will be responsible for entering all of that project information into Volunteer Western New York, so that it's all one hub where companies and individuals can go in and register. And we will be responsible for maintaining that site from now until the Day of Caring. Obviously, we will work closely with all of you for any changes or updates that you have, but we will be doing the administrative piece of that. All volunteers will register through Volunteer Western New York, and we'll actually be rolling it out in a tiered manner to our sponsors first, then our companies, and then to individuals. And as I said, we'll be managing all of the updates as we go through, so you don't have to worry about that. So before you begin, all day of caring projects host organizations must be 501c3s, not-for-profits, government offices, or schools. And all of the host organizations and project sites must be located within Erie County. And all day of caring projects must take place on June 21st. And this brings us to please have a contingency project for rain in case you have an outdoor project. This is nothing new. We've always asked agencies to have a plan B. And that is part of the form, to think about what you might be able to do inside if you have some sort of landscaping or outdoor playground project. Oh, I think we already saw this slide. There we go. Okay, so all projects must be submitted through us, through United Way. Please don't recruit volunteers and companies on your own. We want to make sure that that's all managed by United Way. For your project, please provide all necessary tools and equipment needed for the project. Again, this is the same as in past years. As Jen mentioned, we're asking the agencies to provide water for the volunteers, and if you have a full day project, to provide lunch. And now what United Way will do, we will again list all the projects on Volunteer Western New York and manage that whole process. We will recruit all of the volunteers to assign to you, and we will communicate with the agency project manager and the team leaders for the project throughout the entire registration process up to and including the day of caring. We will also manage all the media coverage. We'll manage the peer-to-peer fundraising portal and the disbursement of the funds at the end, the planning, administration, and evaluation. And we will provide best practices and other resources, which leads me to introducing our two guests today that we're very excited to have on board with us. Sandy Falsoni from Wegmans. She is the training coordinator and the United Way coordinator for the Wegmans Buffalo division. And Scott Zwink from M&T Bank. He's the business banking sales and strategy manager. And they are co-chairing the Day of Caring team this year that we're super excited about. They're going to have a team of volunteers that will be working with the agencies again they're kind of like a team of consultants to help you all create the best project that you can create and help you get the resources you need. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sandy and Scott.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sandy, it looks like you're on mute right now. There we go.
Just got it. Thank you, Scott. We are so excited to spend a few minutes with you today and kind of share a little bit of our expertise, which is helping to plan great projects. I want to let you know that we've got a tool that your United Way friends are going to be giving you a little bit later, and it's going to cover a lot of what we talk about and more. But we just want to highlight a few of the key pieces. I'm going to go ahead and get started, and then Scott's going to come in and talk about some of the real important pieces. Got to start this out by telling you, I like the Day of Caring more than my birthday. So this is a big deal for me. I love this, love this, love this. And as someone who has participated in every Day of Caring that we have done here in Erie County, I am so proud to be able to be here as a potential resource for you. If we can move to that next slide, want to start a little bit by talking about something that's really important. And this is for the agency to get themselves into the right mindset. And I tell you this as someone who has worked with dozens and dozens and dozens of agencies over the years. It is so important for you to really think about your volunteers as extra people for the day. These are people that want to do something meaningful. They want to work hard. And that's part of the reason why the United Way is going to help you do a great job of promoting this project and linking it to people that have that connection, that interest. When people feel validated, not only are you going to get work done that day, but you have the potential of creating long-term connections with those people. I think of myself. There are 4 or 5 local organizations that touched me so deeply during United Way projects that I still am engaged. I still have my claws in their work. And I think that can happen to anybody. It's super important that you go in with that positive attitude, that they're not there to ruin my day and get in my way. These people are there because they want to make a difference. I think it's also really important for you to think about what you can teach the people that come there. How are you going to let them know what your organization does? And I highly recommend you know your people. What experiences or what stories can they tell you about the clients or the people you serve? What can they tell you about how they have changed? I think right now about a young man that I met years ago at one of the agencies that worked with people that were in poverty and struggling with homelessness. And I still remember his story. And I still remember how when I met him, he had not been homeless for years because of the support of that agency and had actually just taken a job working with the federal government as a consultant on working with the homeless. That's an experience that made me connect and other volunteers connect with that agency. So just that kind of background, something to think about, having the right mindset. If we could move to the next slide, I want to talk briefly a little bit about getting ready. I am a big proponent of preparedness, and Scott is going to echo this as well. You gotta know what potentially could be done. I tell every agency whenever I meet someone, even if it's just on a regular visit, do you have a wish list? Do you keep a rolling wish list? What kinds of things would you want someone to do if they knocked at your door and said, hey, I got 3 hours, can you put me to work? The best agencies are those that keep that rolling list or wish list year round. And yeah, you're going to have traditional stuff. We could use someone to swab the gym floor. We could use someone to paint an office. We could use someone to help with organizing. But think about the other stuff. Our United Way team has mentioned using the professional skills, the in-kind donation. I remember a Day of Caring project once where we were paired with another company. They were a bunch of computer people. Well, this agency needed to have computers set up. What a perfect thing for them to use their skills. And then we took on some of the bulwark and also helping them with some kitchen things, which was our professional skill. So knowing what can be done, those in-kind things. It's also important to know if someone said, hey, you know, what if the people in my group want to donate something? What can you use? Knowing that you could use cases of copier paper, or knowing that you collect books for the clients that you serve at your agency, knowing that you need some diapers for your pantry. Know those things, keep a running list, really, really important. And check with your staff. Remember, they're the frontline people. They talk to people every day. I think another thing to think about when you're preparing a project is don't forget that teams can come and do something nice for your team. Wouldn't it be wonderful to have them repaint your staff break room if it's fallen apart? Your people give all they can to the clients. Let the volunteers do something for your team. So just think about those as you create that wish list. The second element I think is really important in any planning is start big and then you're going to narrow it down. Because if you know what the big stuff is, then if you get that big group or the group with some specific skills, terrific. If not, then you'll be able to narrow down and help other groups look at what is potentially there. What I love about this new system this year is you may get individuals joining a group from another organization. They may have specific skills. Don't consider any task too small. Another thing to think about too is when you're thinking about projects, remember that groups come with skills and people of all different ages and different abilities. And it's really neat to jot down a variety of things, because if a volunteer group shows with people that like to do the tedious small stuff, maybe you got something that can help with them out. If you've got that landscaping group, they can do that. So by being as broad as you can and then narrowing down that list, that will help, because you're going to want to prioritize. And that's where having a master checklist comes in. What's your day going to look like from arrival to completion? And that includes those decisions like, where are they going to park? Where are we going to stage all of the supplies? So you should really create a little checklist. I like to take a folder for each of the people that are running subgroups, and I staple my master agenda right in there. I give them a checklist so they know all the equipment and where everything's at, where the bathrooms are. All of those little things are going to save you stress day of. Include your tasks, prioritize. What's the big stuff? What do you want to absolutely have done at the end of the day? But then have some backup stuff, because sometimes people will achieve more. Make sure you have your lists of all your equipment and supplies and get them in advance. There's nothing worse than having people paint and you run out of paint, or you don't have enough trays, or you don't have enough paintbrushes. This might be a great place to tap your wonderful donors or other people that support your organization. Do you have an in with somebody at Lowe's or Home Depot or at a local paint company? Do you know a landscaper who may be able to donate some plants to you or let you borrow some of their rakes or their shovels? This is a great time to think about those things. And the last point I listed is think about staging. We're going to be asking you as volunteers to make sure you got all the stuff. Make sure you have a place to put them, or where can you procure them so they are safe but ready for us to use when we get there. We're going to shift over to Scott for a little bit so he can cover some other really important information.
Sandy, thanks. I appreciate that. Sandy's a tough act to follow. If you've never been exposed to Sandy before, she is one of the most organized people that I have ever met in my life. And I think what she was just demonstrating is the importance of communication. There's a couple things to keep in mind. There's really two or three pieces of communication. The first is with your staff. There is nothing more shocking than having a group of volunteers walk in and really only having one person in the organization know they were supposed to be there that day, or even what they're doing. So keep your staff in the loop. You're going to find that they are going to have all sorts of ideas as well. I learned a long time ago that it never hurts to ask the question, ask why, ask what can I do for you? And I find that as we have engaged various organizations, and I've gone out and done pre-event planning and help with communications, just by pulling someone aside and saying, hey, what would you really think would make a difference in your life here with the agency, not only for the people you're serving, but for you as well. We always got some great responses coming back. So engage your staff, keep them abreast of what's going on, have them help planning. The worst thing you can possibly do is think that everything has to be done by yourself, by you. Now, so I understand some of these agencies are very small. It may only be 3 or 4 people that are really the heart of the agency. Still, even with the 3 and 4, let them know what's going on and get them engaged. The other part of the communication is with your team leader. It is vitally important to the success of the day and being completely engaged with your team leader and building that rapport with them. That team leader is your interface pre-event to the volunteers. They're the one that can help get the communications out and talk to the volunteers and let them know what to expect, set those expectations, ask them to bring gloves, ask them to bring rakes, whatever some of those ideas that may be needed to do the work. I know with M&T in the years and years that we've been involved in this Day of Caring as well, we always turn to our volunteers and ask them to help lean in and bring things with us. I think you'll find that most of your volunteers will be very willing to do that as well. Your team leader is your source of communication through them. The other thing to think about too, it's a great way to get ready for this with the team leads. One of those things, if you're going to host a full day event and you're going to be providing lunches, you're probably going to need to know little things like, geez, do I need any vegetarian lunches? Do I not need vegetarian lunches? What can we do? And that's where the team leader, you can lean in with that team lead again, building that rapport with them and ask them to check with the volunteers. Hey, can you get some of this information for me? They're a great source. This is another way of not shouldering that burden all by yourself. Why don't we flip to the next slide, if you would, Jen? I think you're controlling that for us, right? Right, my favorite, King Arthur. I grew up baking with my mom. She was also the one that told me about asking questions too. And my mom was a great source when she was around. She was a great source of help. And that's what Sandy and I are here for. If we have bakers in the audience today and you've never turned to the King Arthur helpline, baking helpline, they are amazing, right? They're a hotline that brings their knowledge of their seasoned experts to the forefront to help you. A little side note, 1-855-371-BAKE. Write that number down. I used it right before Christmas time and they saved some bread I was baking. So fantastic opportunity. But how does Sandy and I fit into this? As was mentioned a little bit earlier, we're leading up a team that's going to act as consultants for you. This is something that we feel near and dear to. We've had help throughout our careers, and people have given us their guidance and their wisdom. Together, we have, as astounding as this sounds, over 50 years of experience planning projects and volunteer events. And as Sandy mentioned before, there's no task that's too small. It's kind of the same thing here. There's no question that is too small. Chances are, if you're thinking about this question, someone else is as well. And so raise your hand. In a few minutes, you'll see how you can get a hold of us and how you can communicate your questions too, and we can help you out. What can we help with? Well, pre-event planning is a big thing. Don't wait until a week before the event to get in contact with your team lead or to start that planning. The more advanced thinking you get, the better opportunity you're going to have to really drive some big success in the Day of Caring for not only your agency, but also engaging your volunteers. As Sandy mentioned before too, the more engaged you get your volunteers, the more they understand about your agency, the better chance you have of connecting long-term with them. I've used this as a sounding board, right, for ideas. If you think something sounds crazy, I would say, no, it probably isn't. Ask, and let's find out what we can do to help you round that out. We're kind of that third-party consultant for the agencies and to help you with your team leads is to, you know what, we're a shoulder to lean on. Take advantage of us. We're happy to come out and spend some time helping you develop ideas, creating some of those great projects, and just being a general resource for you. Really looking forward to the kind of new and improved Day of Caring, and thankful to the UA team for asking us to help and share here too. I think, Suzette, I'm going to turn it over to you to round this out for us.
Thank you, Scott and Sandy. That was awesome. And I can attest, I have worked beside Sandy and Scott for I've been here 27 years. So I can tell you they are amazing. And you guys are really, really lucky to have them leading this team, and they will be a huge help. So before we open it up to questions, I just wanted to reiterate the really important points and important changes for this year before you all register for your project. I know everybody's really excited to get registered, but remember, every agency must be a 501c3 government office. I'm forgetting the other two. Jen, pop in and tell me.
I'm
I
sorry,
think you're muted.
what was the question?
I said every agency must be a 501c3 government office or a school. Did I forget one?
No, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And remember that every agency must align with one of our priority areas or be in one of our priority zip codes. And all this will be outlined on the form. Don't worry, you don't have to remember it from this presentation. It's all outlined on your form, and the zip codes are listed as well. We're asking all agencies to provide water this year and lunch if you are a full day project. Remember to think about your parking because there won't be any buses this year. So think about how you can get creative with parking. And of course, we'll ask people to carpool as well. And remember that we'll be on Volunteer Western New York and we'll be managing that. And please, please, please remember to take Sandy and Scott up on their help. And I will be the main point of contact. All questions will come through me at this email that Jen has just posted here, dayofcaring@uwbec.org. So questions about anything at all will come through that because we have a whole team behind this email and we will respond to you with answers. So I think that I've hit on all the points, Jen, unless there's something else that you want to mention again before we open it up to our group for questions.
No, we're just going to pop a few links in the chat here for you to follow along to find out more information or find that registration form. I'm also going to put a few documents into the chat box that you can download from here. These are all also available on the website. We've divided our agency guide into 3 separate documents. So they're in an order. You see they have 1, 2, and 3. So there's the basic overview of getting started. And then we have our like divergent thinking, think big about your project. And then we have the convergent thinking, you check that back against a few key questions. So those are in the chat here. And those again are all available on the website, uwbec.org/dayofcaring. I think with that, we're ready to go ahead and open the floor for questions in the Q&A. And we had one question that came in a little bit earlier in the call. Liz is going to monitor this for us from now on. But we had one question where someone asked, if an organization is not currently funded by United Way, are we eligible to submit a project? 100%. It is not a requirement for your agency to be funded by United Way for you to be eligible to submit a project. When I mentioned our RFP, it was really about the framework we use for our impact work. So even if you're not funded, you may still be doing work in those impact areas. You may still be located in our 16 priority zip codes. So those are some nice rules of thumb for screening your project against, but you do not have to be a funded agency to participate. And thank you, Caitlin, for that question. That was a good question. What else do we have from the audience? What other questions do we have from the audience here? You can type it right into the Q&A. We had one question in the background as well, asking about a hashtag for social media. Not yet, but we will be getting that together as part of our overall promo toolkit. We're trying to revamp the look and feel of Day of Caring from the past a little bit as well. So more to come in the coming weeks on the promotional materials to help publicize the event. For now, though, the most important thing is to get that project submitted so that we can get it into the system and be ready to line you up with the volunteers that you need.
We got another question in on the chat. Is there a deadline for submitting projects? When is the latest we would be able to register?
That's a fantastic question as well. I would say that the absolute latest to register your project should really be by late April if you're going to hit those individual volunteer projects, but know that we're going to start placing volunteers from our sponsor organizations as early as March. So, to have the most significant pool of volunteers available and skill sets available, I would really want to start thinking about getting it in by March. But if something comes to you at a later date and you're like, oh, we want to add a second project, I would say we're still going to be accepting more projects into April. It'll be a real push and pull.
Hey, Jen, can I add a little bit? This is Scott again. I think we had talked about before that the project that you submit now does not need to be a final version of your project, right? If you're in a draft mode right now, get in and then start that draft and get that registration. And that's really where Sandy, where the United Way staff, where I can lean in and help you round that project out a little bit more.
100%. And that's a great point, Scott. Thank you. Yeah, if you're like, I have the seeds of an idea for a project, but it's not all that fleshed out yet, we'd encourage you to go ahead and get that draft project in because then we can help you put some more meat on it and really make sure that you're coming up with a great plan for the day.
Great. Thank you both, Jen and Scott. Our next question in the chat is there a minimum number of volunteers we should plan to take now that there is an individual registration component?
I think that's also a great question, Mary. In the past, our rule of thumb was 10 volunteers for a project. However, we also want to recognize that we're asking you to think more broadly about the kinds of projects you have available. So if what you really need is some help getting yourself on TikTok and hooking up a computer, you probably don't need 10 social media people to come tell you what your first TikTok video should be. That would get a little chaotic. So I think with that, we don't have that same restriction on number of volunteer minimum that we had in the past, but we'd ask you to be thoughtful about the nature of the project. I think in general, if you're looking for, that like 8 or 10 is probably a reasonable rule of thumb if you're looking for a group activity. But if you're looking for a specialized skill, I think it could absolutely be fewer. I hope that's helpful. It's a little bit of a vague booking answer for you, Mary, but I hope that helps give a little bit of guidance around it.
Jen, if I can jump in on that one a little bit.
Yeah.
One of the cool things about a day like this, especially for an organization, and I say this as a business organization, is there's a secondary benefit to us. Not only do we learn about an agency and get to do something meaningful, it's a team builder. So whenever, even if there's a small project, when we can bring a group together, that's awesome. So if you can have a group of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 or more, you've got a better chance that this group is going to walk away with stronger relationships, as well as that energy and enthusiasm that they get from your agency that then they can pass on to others. So to me, a project, if it isn't just a specific task, involves at least a small group. So just something to think about.
Excellent. Thank you, Sandy. You're 100% right, because it is going to add to that volunteer experience when they feel like they have a shared experience. I'm going to real quickly stop sharing my screen right now too, so that more of you could see more of our faces. And I saw a question that came in the chat. Can we have several small specific needs? For example, we need help with social media, accounting, and organizing supplies. Definitely. I think that a project made up of several small specific needs is absolutely a great way to host a little bit larger of a group and get a bunch of different things knocked out. So yeah, I would say if you're like, we need someone who can help with social media, someone who could maybe help us with our accounting and some other general organizing, that seems like a good body of work for me, for a day. And I'll go Sandy and Scott, any other thoughts or tips around that, about putting lots of small things together and rather than one big thing?
Personally, I love that, because every one of the people that we bring is different. I may have that 75-year-old part-time cashier and her expertise is organizing things in drawers. I may have that 50-year-old guy that does woodworking as a hobby. And then I've got the bullworker guys that just want to go out and lift things, or the people that want to clean a playground. When you have a variety of opportunities, you attract a variety of people and make them feel more welcome. Scott, how about you? What do you think?
Sandy, you talked again about nothing being too small. A lot of small efforts add up to a large effort. So if you're concerned, like there was a question, is there a minimum number of people volunteers that you can have? I think that minimum number of volunteers is only limited by your imagination for what could be done for your agency. So I totally and wholeheartedly agree with you. I see some of the notes coming in through the chat as well. Can we have several specific projects, social media, accounting, organizing? Absolutely. We did a very nice full day event with down in the lake. What was the organization? I can't remember. We brought all of our marketing group. We had a one-day marketing blitz, and Jen and Liz are laughing at me because we talked about this very idea, and I forgot the name of the agency already. I apologize, but we had a great one-day marketing blitz where we put together not only materials, help them build materials, but we also helped them put them in touch with other experts in the Buffalo area that could help them and get some time for them. We built a calendar of events coming up, etc. So ask. That's my key here is ask for the help.
And I'll say too, specifically, I have my social media person here on the call, Kaylee, but in the aftermath of multiple different crises that our community's been through in the last year, there have been all these smaller organizations that have really been on the front line of response. And we're a small organization. Sometimes it can be hard to find the time to carve out to really get your social media profiles up and running and to really have a plan for ongoing content that isn't too heavy of a lift. And so to me, that's just a great example of something that a couple of volunteers with some experience in the area might just give you that extra bandwidth to get that communication vehicle up and working for you. So that specifically was something that Kaylee and I, were thinking of leading into this day, that think about whether volunteers could help you with that.
And don't forget direct service to your clients. If there is an opportunity to have someone connect with your people, wow, that's the powerful storytelling.
Excellent. All right. Liz, do we have any other questions that have come in?
I do not see any additional questions.
Okay. Well, with that, I think I will go ahead and bring us to a close unless there's anything that anyone's jotting into the chat here. I'll give my extra long, prolonged closing in case there's any burning questions that haven't come in yet. And I will give one more reminder in the chat to everyone of that link to the Day of Caring site. You'll hit that landing page, and the very first button there is Day of Caring project registration. It's going to take you to the nonprofit information center related to Day of Caring, where those documents I've shared will be. Those project guideline parameters that we talked about are listed really clearly there. And then you'll see very clearly displayed on the page the registration form. So you'll be able to take a look and understand what information you need to get started registering your project. And we can't wait to hear from you. I feel like we should place bets, who do we think the first project submission will be? I don't know. My team and I will have to place bets behind the scene here. But thank you so much for attending this call today. We're going to be putting the recording of this call onto the Day of Caring webpage that I just shared on that not-for-profit nonprofit registration center. So you'll be able to look back if you're watching this at a later date. You found it. Congratulations. We'll be sharing that link on our website, the video on our website, so that you can catch up on anything you might have missed later. Okay, with that, thank you everyone for your time today. Thank you very much to Scott and Sandy, our special guests, for joining us in the midst of their busy workday to help share more information and to tell you more about how they might be able to help you craft the perfect project this year. Have a great day, everybody.